Hello, my friends. My name is Felipe Vizcarrondo, better known as Dr. Felipe. I am, together with my colleague, Adolfo, we work at generating resources for pro-life individuals. Our main and most important resource, actually, is our pro-life training course, which consists of 10 modules and covers multiple topics. For the next couple of sessions, I will be talking to you about gender ideology. This is a very current issue in our country, in the United States, and actually all over the world. It's not just here, but all over the world. Why should we be concerned? Why should we be concerned about this gender ideology issue? Well, because it claims that sex is a social construct. It claims that each person has his own gender identity. This gender identity could be different from one's biological sex. It claims that the individual, the person's gender identity supersedes one's biological sex. Gender identity is pervasive. It has infiltrated into all cultures and the structure of society. Gender identity has taken over all social institutions, the media, public and private education, the medical community, the mental health professions, the corporate world, government, and even parents. Some preschools teach this ideology to children, little children in some cases, preschoolers, kindergartners. Drag queen reading hours for children are held in public libraries in this country. You may not know what a drag queen is. A drag queen is a man that is dressed as a woman, sometimes in very bizarre looking apparel, as you can see on the slide. And these people, these men dressed like women, talk to children about issues, including read to them books and speak to them of sexually tainted topics. Many public schools do not inform parents whose children want to be transgender. A child who wishes to be of the opposite sex, that is what transgender means. Many public schools allow boys who identify as females to compete with girls in sports and enter the bathrooms and the locker rooms for girls. Some states, actually many states, prohibit mental health treatment of sexually confused youth. A person's sex is determined genetically at the time of conception. Females have XX chromosomes, male XY chromosomes. These are so-called the sex chromosomes. And the sex chromosomes are part of the total 46 chromosomes that we all have that are inscribed into every single cell in the human being's body. Each cell of the person's body. Sex is binary. It means that it's only male or female. There are only two sexes. So let's digress a little bit and talk about some definition of terms. Yeah. What is gender? What is known as gender? Gender is a term that refers to the psychological, and cultural characteristics associated with biological sex. It is a psychological concept and a sociological term. It is not a biological term. Gender identity refers to the individual's awareness, something here in your head, awareness of being male or female, and is sometimes referred to as an individual's experienced gender. What about sex? Sex is a biological term and indicates maleness and femaleness. What is dysphoria? Dysphoria is defined as a state of dissatisfaction or unease about a given situation. Let me just repeat that. It's a state of dissatisfaction or unease, unhappiness about a given situation. When it refers to gender, then we call it gender dysphoria. So gender dysphoria is a psychological condition in which the individual feels a marked incompatibility between his or her, boys or girls, experienced gender, what they think their gender is, and their biological sex. This condition, as I said before, dysphoria, is associated with varying levels of anxiety and unhappiness. These folks, these individuals, often express the belief that they are a man trapped inside of a woman's body, or a woman trapped inside of a man's body. This is not reality. This is actually a break from reality. So, a small minority of young children suffer from this sexual identity disorder. Gender dysphoria that I just described is the psychological manifestation of this disorder. A bit about growth and development in the child. By the time the child is 3 years old, the little boy knows that he is a boy, and the little girl knows that she is a little girl. Some children have some confusion about this at the ages of 3 or 4, maybe sometimes 5. These are the children that have a sexual identity disorder. However, the overwhelming majority of these kids, 80 to 90%, overcome this disorder without any intervention by the time they complete adolescence. Recently, a second group has been described. These are teens, mostly girls, although some boys, but mostly girls, that show what has been called rapid onset of gender dysphoria. So these are not 3 or 4 year old babies or 3 or 4 young children that are confused about their sexual identity. These are kids that are in their mid-teens and then all of a sudden show this gender dysphoria. These are kids that have had no prior history of sexual confusion. It has been associated to autism spectrum disorder, eating disorders, clinical depression, and other mental health issues. These are very disturbed adolescents. It's been found to be influenced greatly by the media and peers. So, neuroplasticity. What is neuroplasticity? That's kind of a fancy term. I bring this up because claims have been made derived from imaging studies of the brain, that the transgender brain microstructure, the microscopic structure, is different from the non-transgender brain. These studies are of questionable validity due to the small number of subjects and what is known as neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is a well-established phenomenon in which a long-term behavior alters brain microstructure, microscopic structure. There is no evidence that people are born with brain microstructures that are forever unalterable, but there is evidence that experience changes brain microstructure. Therefore, if and when valid transgender brain differences were identified, which they have not, these would likely be the result of transgender behavior rather than its cause. Let me just give you an example. I have been a pediatrician for many, many years, and my behavior as a pediatrician has affected the microstructure of my brain, the microscopic structure of my brain. So it's my behavior, my experience that has affected the structure of the brain. It is not an inborn error. The brain was not born that way. Studies have shown that dysfunctional families, social pressure in schools, mainstream and social media are important contributors to gender dysphoria in minors. These are this is the information, our information in Miami, our address, our telephone number. Note the YouTube address, Vida Humana Miami Playlist. You can also connect with us through Adolfo at vidahumana.org. Thank you very much for your attention and many blessings, and we will continue on our next video.